in.
Thanks, Alex. That looks positive. Huh?
Yeah.
I thought it was extra branding, but it's always nice to be seen, especially when I know a few people on this call today. But thanks everyone for joining us. Just waiting for a few more to join on.
Yeah, let's see. We'll throw up another poll while we wait. To see how many people use Office 365 versus anything else. Good results on that one. So it's good if you've got Office 365, you've definitely got Teams as part of it ready to go.
Yeah, it's a great web application. Right, how are we going?
You do 92% of people use it. So it's pretty good.
I'm glad no one's unsure about using Office 365. Obviously, our meetings have been coming across in some way.
All right. Wonder how many times we're going to say Teams in this webinar. I reckon it's probably going to be 100 or so, maybe 200.
Alternative drinking game for somebody.
Yeah, you'd die. Alrighty, do we want to start it there? It looks like we've got a good number in.
Happy to start? Absolutely. Yep. Cool. Cool. Well, thank you for joining us today. Today we're just going to give you an introduction to Microsoft Teams and run through some aspects. Hopefully there's some good takeaways. So what's the purpose today? So what we're covering, so what is Teams? Why it's beneficial to you as an organization or your team? What the key features are? And with that, we're going to do some live demonstrations and hopefully you can take something out of it, but feel free when you see anything as we go along to chime in and let us know if you've got any questions about it. So we'll be taking some questions at the end, and there should be a little question box to the left-hand side of your panel. Yeah.
And yeah, when you leave the webinar at the end, you'll get a survey link popping up, hopefully, with some feedback. We would appreciate the feedback so we can make the next webinars we're going to be running a little bit better. And just to introduce myself, for anyone who hasn't met me before, I'm Alex and I'm a systems engineer at the IT team. So I've been using Teams for a few years now. I've set it up for a bunch of you and some other customers. So I'm looking forward to showing everyone just how much of a change it's made to us at the IT team and yeah, a few of the key features.
Thanks, Alex. And I'm Ben, I'm an account manager, as a few of you might know. So my background is I was in the engineering team. I've got a bit of passion for the technology, and we've used it in-house for many years. So I've sort of developed a bit of interest. And for me, it's really just getting customers interested in understanding what's out there and what they could use.
Awesome.
Cool. So the purpose of today is to cover what Teams is, why it's beneficial to you, and some of the key features and live demonstrations along the way.
Yeah, and some of you may have used Teams before, so the live demonstrations probably won't be anything new, but hopefully you get some new features out of it. And for those that haven't touched it at all, well then hopefully it gives you a nice taste of what it is.
Perfect. So what is Teams? Teams is a piece of software just like Word or Excel that you're fairly familiar with already. So it's part of the Microsoft suite. It's a messaging tool in its base, so where you can do one-to-one messages or one-to-many. It's an application where you can do video conferencing, video calls, channels, and chats. We'll go into that a little bit further on, but it's a new type of communication dialogue. It's free for not-for-profits, which is always cool and a bonus. And there's a good chance you've already got it installed and it's built into your Office 365 package. Cool. So as you're aware, there's a few alternatives out there already. So Teams has been around for a little bit now, but there's others in the game. But it's not exactly, they're not perfect technologies. So the likes of email date back to the 70s, and while it's okay, there's more effective ways of communicating and collaborating with your team. It's pretty easy to miss an email, as we know, as there's dozens that come in. The same with Slack. So Slack is a messenger-based application that's similar to Teams in some ways, with free and paid versions, and free versions having message limitations. Phone and texting, it's pretty quick form. Obviously, everyone's used it and use it, but it's very hard to trace what was said over time. Face-to-face, while it's always great to get out and see people, it's pretty hard with busy schedules. And if you've got diverse office locations, so say you've got someone in Auckland, you've got someone in Christchurch. So Skype for Business, just to touch there, you might know about Skype for Business. So Teams is replacing it, and Skype for Business has been phased out, but it's not quite as good experience in what we've seen. And lastly, Zoom. So this is focused mostly on video calling and free and paid versions.
Thanks for the in.
So why Microsoft Teams? It allows you to communicate faster with your teams, so your colleagues in your team. It takes all the tools from the previous slides, so the alternatives, and mashes them into one great system. It's secure for your storage and your internal communication. And for organizations with multiple locations, it improves how you connect and communicate together, and embraces flexible working. So if you had a team member working from home, it means they can still access everything. It allows you to video call and conference, and it will help you with your internal meetings and engage with people outside your organization. Teams is constantly growing and expanding its systems, and it's designed to evolve as your needs change. So Teams also allow you to pull in existing process and systems and workflows into the Teams environment. So overall, Teams should improve the communication across your organization.
Thanks for the overview, Ben. So I just thought it'd be good to highlight how the IT team has started using Teams and how we got here, and where we were, and how Teams has helped us solve some of the problems that we had. So if we look back and go back 5 years, the IT team primarily would be using cell phones, landline phones, and text messaging to get in touch with people. Particularly if the engineers or techs are on site, it could be very difficult to get in touch with them if they're on site helping you guys. So we'd send them an email or something like that because we didn't want to disturb them. But that's kind of slow, and a lot of the communications that we've got, they're not urgent, but they do need a response pretty promptly. So yeah. We also did a lot of meetings. Most of them were face-to-face meetings because we didn't have any other way to do it. And we used to spend a lot of resources and money investing in equipment, cameras, different pieces of software to try to get good video calling. Back then we had just didn't need an office, and yeah, we're finding that we weren't having great meetings with them. The video would just would be poor, or it just freeze and lock up. Or a drop altogether. So a lot of the time we would end up just dragging a desk phone onto a table, or even worse, getting a cell phone and putting it on speaker, which for a meeting really isn't the best situation to be in. Half the time you're just talking over each other, or you're struggling to hear what they're saying. So I'm sure that's probably something similar that you guys have done in a pinch as well. And we didn't really have a centralized way to deal with announcements in the organization, or letting people know what you're doing. So you'd come in the morning and you'd get 5 or 10 emails just to do with process, and wouldn't really be that, that great of a thing when you get in the morning to 3 emails of people sick and that there's cake in the staff room. So since getting Teams, we probably started using Teams in about 2011. Initially, we only used the chat feature, so just person to person or small groups of chat. That was still pretty powerful. It was still a big improvement for the IT team. Sorry, did I say 2017? Yeah, big improvement, a lot more features than sending a text message. So since then, for our internal communications, Teams has probably taken over about 90% of them. We don't send emails internally that often anymore. I mean, we still do on occasion, but normally we don't. And we normally don't call each other either. If we're going to call, we'd call within Teams. One thing to note with the internal communications is it's a lot faster to use a chat message than it is to use an email. It's a few seconds as opposed to a minute plus. Another thing it did is with conference calls, internal and external. We started. Now we've got 5 different offices, I think. So it's a game changer really to start using Teams for video calling. I think we've had like 20 people in a video call, all with their webcams on, and no problems whatsoever. It just copes with it. So every major meeting or any meeting at all, we're all using Teams. To the point where a lot of people don't bother going into the meeting rooms anymore. They'll just sit at their desk with the webcam, and anyone, no matter where they are, will be able to see them. That really also helps if you want to work from home. Back in 2014, you couldn't work from home. There's no way to talk to the team. You could do a very limited set of tasks. You certainly couldn't attend a meeting from home. Now you can attend meetings from home. You can see the documents they're working on and everything. It's really great. And for important announcements, we've got several Teams channels, which I'll show you how that works later on. We don't have emails about internal notifications. We just have them in the appropriate Teams channel, and that you read them at your leisure, which is great. But not only has it let us solve the problems that we were having, it's also enabled us to do several things more, new features. So we've got a whole bunch of Teams channels, which I'll show you later on, for different projects. So as we make projects, we set up a team for them, and we can keep all the communication in one place, which in the past we couldn't really do. It allows us to do polls and get feedback from the team and make decisions really quick. In the past, you'd set up a meeting and discuss things. Now you can just do it in 10 minutes, and everyone that needs to be involved is involved. We've started pulling all our workflows and forms into different Teams channels. So that way, if you need to fill out a form, say a credit card request or something, or you've got a workflow to get an approval, you can automate it within the team structure and get to it all from one place. It's given us the ability to record our meetings, which I'll demonstrate later. And it can also do automatic transcription, which is great. And it also integrates heavily with Sharepoint. I'm not sure how many people use Sharepoint, but the file storage for Teams is Sharepoint, and it lets us store all our files securely, and we don't need to use a Windows server anymore for that. So I've just got a few screenshots here. This is one that I took this morning from our Teams environment, just showing the amount of chat messages. And just an example, we've got here is a regional chat where people are just saying what they're doing. I can see that Andrew's got a first aid course today, this would be. So I can see he's busy. So you can talk about all kinds of things. We've got group chats, we've got one-on-one chats, and we've got a couple people in a chat together. And here's the team section. So we've got a bunch of different teams set up. I will demo this, and I've got a demo environment set up, so it looks a little bit different to this, but we've got a team set up for the engineers, of which I'm part of. We've also got one set up for the service desk and for sales and for the account managers, which I'm not part of, so I can't see them. We've got a project set up for Teams adoption. This webinar was planned heavily in that channel. We're redesigning our SharePoint, and we've got a general one for health and safety and so on. So we've got a whole bunch of different teams set up, ready to go. Right. So we're going to start getting into some demonstrations now, and hopefully they go well, because it's always a bit of a curse when you're doing live things that the demonstrations work as you'd hope. So the most basic function of Teams is Teams chat. And this is where we started off in the early days. So it allows individuals within a company to discuss things with each other. And it kind of replaces email internally. It's definitely quicker. So what I'm going to demonstrate is how to just start a one-to-one chat, how to start a group conversation, how to set your presence to show if you're there or not, how to share files quickly with each other, how to send important messages to make sure they get looked at, and how to do video calling. We're going to hope to do the video calling. It's a little bit strange when you're sharing it. So I'll share, just 1 second, I'll just bring Teams up in my demo environment. So this is what a brand new Teams has looked like, and many of you that said you've never opened it, about half of you. This is probably what it would have looked like, similar. So to start a new chat, I'll click up here and type in Ben's name and go, "Hi, Ben." And I've sent him a message. Now, you've probably all sent a message before, so this is nothing new, but it's the most basic function, so it would be silly not to mention it. Now, not limited just to messaging Ben. I want to grab in someone else. Let's say grab in Bill Gates. We can have a group conversation. You know, it doesn't look like Bill's there, but that's all good. You can see that if people are there or not by looking at the little indicator. So I can see that Ben is available and online, and I can see that Bill, he's offline. He's a busy guy. It's very easy to change if you're there or not. You just jump up here. You can change it. So I can change my availability to available. You can also set a message at luck. You can also set a message so that way when people message me, they'll instantly see where I'm at and what I'm doing. So, you know, if you're working in a remote office or you're working from home, and someone wants to know if you're at your desk, it saves them having to call the person next to you or call the receptionist and say, "Is Alex at his desk?" They can just see if he's there, if you're there or not. If we jump back into a few of the messaging features, one thing that we've found really helpful is setting message importance. So if I really want Ben to talk to me, I can set an urgent message, and that will send a message to Ben, a pop-up on the screen for every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. And it will also send him an email. So it's very helpful to get people's attention. Don't abuse this, obviously. If you set every message to urgent, then nothing's really urgent. But yeah, it's a great thing to use, especially for engineers when they're on site. Now, just Ben, can you share a file with me, if possible, just to demonstrate file sharing? What Ben can do is he can press this little icon down here to send me a file. So that way we can both look at the same file. So this is better than emailing. So if we were to email, Ben would attach a file to an email, send me the email, I'd open the email, I'd open the attachment, I'd make the changes, I'd have to save that somewhere on my hard drive, reply to his email, and then reattach it. With Teams, it's very, very simple to have it popping up. So he's found a document, I can click and open it. You'll notice it opening straight in Teams. So Word can run straight within Teams. And then we can have a live discussion about it as we're looking at it. And I can edit it and it stays on Ben's system. So that file that he's just sent me is actually saved in Ben's OneDrive, which is his online cloud repository in Office 365. And so any changes, I don't have to have a copy. He retains the ownership of the copy, basically. Thanks for that. All right, we're going to try to do a video call now, Ben. Apologies, the audio might mute because, you know, we'll give it a shot. To start a video call, it's just as simple as pressing that. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Yep, so we're in a video call. Hello, Ben.
Alex.
You can just mute yourself in Teams. So we've got a bunch of features that we can do here. We can hold the call like you would normally, transfer, or consult then transfer like a normal video call. And importantly, if you're on a poor connection, I can actually turn Ben's video off, which is very, very helpful if I'm getting a glitchy video. You'll notice as well that behind Ben, it's gone all blurry. This is helpful if you're working from home or you've got some sensitive information behind that you don't want other people to see. You can actually blur out your background, so to get rid of any of that risk, basically. And you see how easy it is just to start a video call. We do this instead of calling nowadays, normally. Anyway, that's cool. I will leave the video. Bye, guys. See you again soon. All right. So yeah, that's just a basic introduction to chat. I'll jump back to the presentation. Ben, do you want to talk a little bit about what a team is?
Absolutely, thanks Alex. So now that Alex has covered off individual messaging, have you ever been stuck in a sort of a reply all email chain?
Yep.
Yeah, obviously have. It's really annoying when you don't have anything to add. So a good example of this, so one that we've faced is where 27 people, for argument's sake, were sent a document for comments and changes, and people might respond with different changes, and others might sort of download the document and send back all sorts. So what it ends up with is a variety of different documents and people not communicating effectively. So Microsoft Teams team allows your discussion to be configured and discussed in a limited group where people can read and keep up to date with what's going on without filling up your inbox with those reply all emails. So members can join or leave a group where they choose to or need to. So for example, if a team member in sales starts to work with a marketing team, they could be added to the marketing group and shared those files and see the communication and chats with them. So for us, that might mean I want to see what the procurement team is doing. And my involvement with the team is limited. So I've been given access to read, but I don't really want to say anything the majority of the time. I just want to see important notifications. If the team wants my input, they could mention me. I think Alex will show you later on. And that means that I will be notified when it's relevant to me.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. So I'm going to be doing a demonstration on Teams. I'll demonstrate how to create a new team, add users to Teams, how to create new channels, how SharePoint can integrate. I'll just touch on that just briefly. With Teams, how to tag people and mention them, and how to use some additional apps. So 1 second, jump back to Teams. All right, so you see on the left-hand side, the next button down here is Teams. And this is what it looks like. Now, I've already set up one team here called Social Club, because we've got an ongoing social club, and it's got several channels below there. Now, the idea is Microsoft wants to make it as easy as possible to make teams. So I'll demonstrate how to do that now. You click Join or Create a Team. Create a team. Create from an existing Office 365 group or team if you've already got one set up, or build one from scratch. We'll start with building one from scratch. Now, a team can be set to different privacy settings. The most common one will be private, so people need permission to join. So the owner of the team can choose who they want to be involved. This would be probably 90% of teams in a business situation, I'd say, or roughly that percentage. You can have a public team, which doesn't mean it's open to anyone external. It just means that anyone in your organization can join. So they can see that the team exists, but they can't see the content unless they decide to join themselves. And then lastly, an organization-wide team is one that everyone's automatically joined to. So you might have a general notifications channel or something along those lines. That's where you'd use that. We'll make a new team. We'll call it party planning, because that's all we do at the IT team, is party. And we'll click create. It takes a few seconds to create. It'll let me know when it's all finished. It's done. And then I can add a member to the team. So I'll add you, Ben.
Thank you.
Now, again, an option here whether or not to keep Ben as just a normal member, which means he can read and add documents and that kind of thing. Or I can add him as an owner, which means he can add or remove people from the group. Okay. You add as a member. All right, so when you set up a new team, you automatically get a general channel, which is the default one that's made. We can add a few more channels here. Let's do one called food, because it's very important to have in a party planning channel. And I could write a description as well to help people find it. And everyone can get access to that. And it's got a new channel created. So that's how easy it is to make a new team. You can have teams for anything. Like it might be a business unit, or it could be a specific project, or it could just be a business function. So there's no wrong answer there. So we'll just demonstrate a few features within a channel. We'll use Walking on the Park 2020, which I made earlier. I can attach a document, upload it from my computer, which is upload a shopping list. Like so, press enter and it's sent it out to the team. So anyone in the team now has access to that document. Now that document isn't actually stored in my OneDrive anymore, it's stored in Sharepoint. If I click on the Files tab up here, you'll see that the shopping list shows up within the Files tab. There's a button here which I won't click because it'll mess up the sharing, but that would open up Sharepoint online and then you can access the document through there. So it's a direct link and interface into Sharepoint there. What I can also do is you'll notice along the top, we've got some tabs here. So let's say the shopping list is a very important document. I can make that into a tab, which means it's easily accessible. And I can start a conversation about it as well. So rather than having to have a meeting to discuss it, you can just do an ad hoc kind of meeting and have people join and edit the document at the same time. Doesn't look like Ben's jumped into the document yet. But if he wants to jump in, then we can show off how you can co-edit within a channel. While we're waiting for him to do that, I could mention Ben. So I can go at Ben. And by doing the at symbol like that, and then typing in Ben, what that does is it does a pop-up basically saying someone wants you to look in this channel. See if he's coming online. Yep, so you can see there that Ben is writing. What are you going to write, Ben? Blueberries. Sounds good.
Central party food.
Yeah. All right, so if we go back, Ben, if you just want to actually mention me in the Walking on the Park channel, just to demonstrate what it looks like.
Certainly.
Thanks. As you can imagine, as you're a member of multiple teams on the left-hand side, it gets hard to know where to look. Here's what it looks like. So I get a pop-up on the bottom left, and it shows up with a 1 in the activity. And in the channel here, it says Walking in the Park 1. It's done a mention. But you're not limited just to doing documents within a channel. You'll notice down here, there's a button called Apps. You can actually link a whole bunch of different software that you may already use. For instance, you may have heard of Trello. That's a project management software, a cloud-based project management software. If you already use any of these products, and there are lots of them, then it can just integrate straight into Teams and offer you a few new ways of using that tool potentially. So to demo this, I'm not going to link a third-party program in, but what we can do is link an Office 365 application in. So if we add Planner, Planner is a Microsoft program that is similar to Trello if you use it, if you've used Trello before, but it lets you create plans. So for instance, if we're going to go party planning, we can make a new planner. It pins it to the top up here. And then we can start making a to-do list to do with the event at hand. So I can type in an event, set a due date, let's get it done by next week, Ben, and assign it to myself. And I've just added myself a task. So when I add myself a task, it sends me an email and adds it to my Microsoft to-do list that I've got something to do. And also everyone who's involved in the plan can see that there's a new plan being made there. Alrighty, we'll just jump back to the presentation for a sec.
Yeah, so Planner is a great delegation tool, so you can hand out tasks, everyone can see what's going on. Why Alex brings up the next slide.
Thanks for that, Ben. Yeah, we use Planner quite a bit for all our projects, so check it out. You should all have it if you've got Office 365. So you're not limited in a Teams channel just to send messages and documents, although you do use it quite a lot for that. You can also have something called a Teams meeting. So every company has meetings, obviously, but probably a lot of them are in a room or face-to-face. So what a Teams meeting does is it allows individuals within a company to discuss things with each other. And a good example of this is if you say you're planning a party, let's say it's going to be at the headquarters, let's say it's a Christmas party, but you want all the regions to be involved in planning that out. Or maybe someone's at home because they're going to be attending the party, but they can't make the meeting. So you make your Teams meetings and then they can dial in. So in a second, I'll demonstrate how the Teams calendar works and how to run meetings and interact inside a meeting. So how to record a meeting, and I can show you how to share your screen. A lot of jumping back and forwards. Here we go. So you see on the left here, there is a calendar button. And I can make a new meeting. So you just click. Type in a title. Select your channel to meet in. Just going to put it in walking in the park since that's a nice empty channel. Invite someone along. And it will show up saying whether or not Ben's free at the time I put. Good news is he is. He's a scheduling assistant to help out as well if it says he's busy. And then much like if you've ever used Outlook before to make a meeting, you can type in details for the meeting there. And just like that, it's scheduled. Now there's a few different ways to join a meeting. I can either click on the event that's been made within the channel, or I can click on calendar and then click the join button. Or if I'm in Microsoft Outlook, which I don't have set up on this computer, you can join the meeting through your calendar in Outlook because it's actually the same calendar, it's synced. I'll join the meeting. And hopefully everyone can still hear me, because it sometimes can go a little bit strange. So we're in a meeting and Ben's just joined. We get a few options here. First one is to start recording. So we're going to start recording the meeting. It takes a few seconds to get set up before it starts actually recording. It's going, and it says along the top, you're recording, let everyone know that they've been recorded. And then you've got a privacy policy that you can set up if you've got a particular recording privacy policy. So if people don't want to be recorded, they can leave. So while we're recording that, there's also a screen sharing button here. I won't press it because it's going to glitch out the presentation. But what that allows me to do is bring up something on my computer. It could be a web page or it could be a Word document. And it lets me share that with everyone, no matter where they are. So if we're working on a Word document together, I could bring it up and then I could edit it live while we're talking about it in person. Another thing we can do is we can turn on meeting notes. So I mentioned there's automatic transcription, but you can also do manual notes as well. Like so. And those get saved at the end of the meeting so everyone can review them. You've got normal conversation as well, so you can see what the prior discussions have been about, and you can see who's in the meeting. Anything else that we need to talk about in those meetings, Ben?
I think that's a light overview. It's a great way to present and get in front of it. A lot of the time we use these purely for throwing documents up for discussion and joining together very quickly. So it might mean that we may even be in close proximity, but it's more convenient to have everybody with the full screen document on their laptop and be able to edit on the fly and chat through it. So it's a game changer for us.
Yep, no, it's great. And just to point out how effective this is, this whole slideshow presentation that we've been doing has been created in Microsoft Teams. In fact, how many meetings did we have face-to-face been to make this? 2 or 3, if that?
Yeah, two or three, yeah.
Yeah. Most of it has just been back and forwards on Teams. So anyway, see you later, Ben.
See ya.
So I've just ended the meeting, and immediately you'll notice that I can see the notes. So I can click through to the notes and see them there. And then also you'll notice that the recording has stopped saving recording to Microsoft Stream. So it takes a few minutes to process the recording once it's been finished, but it gets saved to Microsoft Stream. So Microsoft Stream, I guess, is an internal YouTube for your company, I guess would be a way of putting it. It's a video repository for your organization. So all your recordings go there. Normally the person that presses record is the one that has access to the video, and they can choose who it goes to. At the moment, that only works internally within the organization, but coming soon towards the end of the year, maybe you might be able to share them externally. Alrighty, 1 second, just put the presentation back up. So up until now, I've been using the desktop version. Just to briefly bring it up, you can access Teams via a browser. So be that Chrome. Chrome normally works the best because you can share the video and you can access Word and everything from within Chrome. So this is useful if you don't normally have your laptop on you. And there's also a mobile version that runs on iOS, so that's Apple or Android phones. So quick video here. Ben, do you want to just talk about this for a sec?
Yeah, so this is the mobile version. So Alex, as Alex touched on before, the web version, they all are very much the same. You can access chat, team messages and conversation. What it means is, so I think Alex touched on leaving your laptop at home. It can also mean that if you have an event where you can't get to any of your resources, you can just log on to any computer as long as you've got your username, password, and access these tools. So it's really freeing for myself. I might leave my laptop at work at night and jump on and communicate with my team like I'm in the office and access the files. So it's really useful. So this is the mobile version that we're just playing through. Yeah, really simple, showing chat and using the likes of thumbs up. So you don't necessarily have to say yes. A lot of our conversations and back and forth in the team, we use thumbs up. Hey, we recognize what you said, that's cool. The same with GIFs, but they can be abused in some organizations, as you can imagine. Everyone's sending a GIF for happy birthday or how are you? But in the same regard, they add a little bit of joy to it.
To your work. Yeah, we use a lot of the emoticon feedbacks, I guess, because it's just really fast. And also, you can also get we haven't recorded it in the demo, but you can also see files. Obviously, there's a Word document there that we were posted up earlier. You can view them on your phone as well. You are a little bit limited when it comes to features, but it's a mobile, so that's what you expect. You can also join Teams meetings on the mobile as well. So we've had people using hands-free in the car, join meetings. So there's no excuse to miss meetings at the IT team.
Yeah, it certainly makes meetings interesting. We've had a couple of people on live video walking around it as they're talking, and almost seems like they're almost presenters. But so it works extremely well, better than I would expect the technology to work, to be honest. Just off 4G, and you'd think someone's just next to you on Wi-Fi. So just to touch on some of the few advanced features. So Teams calling. So you might have heard of it around. It's still using the Teams application, but it's an advanced feature that can be enabled if you choose to use it. So what it is Teams can be set up like a full phone system without the need of an additional PBX or specialist VoIP hardware. It can run on sort of Teams handsets. So if you get specialist Teams handsets, there's a select ones that it supports. All users get DDIs. You can route calls, voicemails, transfer calls, click to calls. So like on your website, you can just click the phone number and dial, and integrate with your out of office. Just a note there, you do need to tie it into a New Zealand provider, for the New Zealand market.
Yeah.
Just jump through another advanced feature that you can use it for. We use it internally as Teams Rooms. So Teams Rooms means you can have a dedicated device. So it looks like a wee touch screen for users. They can come into the room without needing anything. They can touch one button and get running. So it might dial someone external if you've scheduled a meeting, or you could dial someone from the room. So it's pretty cool. It's just to really simplify the meeting down. It's not stopping anyone from bringing in their own laptop like we do. So we'd start the meeting from the Teams room, we're bringing our laptops and show up our content on the screen and share that way.
Awesome.
Cool. So where to from here? So where to start? So Teams can have a positive impact, but you can start very small or large. Is it slideshow?
Oh, sorry, it might be.
That's right. So a good place to start is chat or video calling. So starting to one-to-one, a lot of businesses might just have a few key personnel and start messaging to get used to the interface. Or video calling in the same regard. If you use video calling for your business already, it could be a good place to start. So starting with a small team could be a way to sort of ease into it as people adjust, or the whole organization could as well adapt. So yeah, you can jump in and attempt to start it up yourself. Like we mentioned, it's already installed, so you can start the application. It's in your subscription, or we can help you out if you need it. So yeah, feel free to start exploring, but if you've got any questions, we can certainly help you along the way.
Awesome, thanks for that, Ben. So now we've got a quick bit of question time. So a few of you have patched through a few questions. So if you've got any questions at the moment that you want to know about Teams, and you might want other people in the webinar to hear, be a good time to type them into the question and answers feature, and we'll do our best to answer them on here. We've only got 2 at the moment. All right, so we've got one here.
Perfect. Do you want me to answer that one for a start, Alex?
Yeah, go for it.
So we've got a question. File sharing looks great. Is it possible to open on the documents, so in the files, on the normal Office clients? So yes, you can. I think we might have lightly touched on it. From the Files tab, when you see a file, you can choose to open it in SharePoint, or you can open it in the Office suite. So you can either edit it in Teams, online, or in the Office suite. It's very flexible.
Yep. Hang on, what's it? It's done. Oh, hang on. Sorry.
That's all right.
You got another question here from John. Sorry, I accidentally clicked through and answered it before I'd answered it. Can an individual leave an organization-wide team? No, if they're an organization-wide team, they're stuck there. It's only the owner that can choose to remove them or not. That being said, there are quite a few team settings, and there's more being added all the time, to restrict which users can create teams and which users can't. So if you're worried about people creating organization-wide teams that then no one can leave, yeah, that may be where that question's coming from. I'm not sure.
That's great. Thanks, Alex. I'll grab the next one.
Yep.
So is Teams usable if a team member is in Australia? It's a great question. Teams isn't really restricted by locations. You might have traveling members in your team and they could jump over to America and dial in. They'll be absolutely fine. But if you've got someone located there permanently, the same applies. As long as you can invite them to the meetings, they don't necessarily need to sit in your organization. They can join in and collaborate with you in Teams.
Awesome. And we've got one here. Can we securely restrict teams for sensitive content? Yes, you can. There's a few different ways of doing that. Within the different channels that we're creating, you can create secure channels which are limited to a few people within a team, so you can lock it down even more. And coming soon, if you use data loss prevention or anything like that within SharePoint, you'll be able to tag content as secure within that as well. And of course, then you can also lock teams down to certain people. And so not everyone can get access to a particular team. So there's a few different layers of security there. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Alex. We've got another one. Where do I go to set up a team? So very good question. So the start would be to launch Teams. So you likely already got it installed if you've got the Microsoft Online Office suite. So yeah, you can always hit the start menu and type in Teams, and it's likely installed. That'll be a good place to start. Load up the application. Otherwise, we'll be happy to guide you through that process if you need help to get started.
All right. We've got a question. How do we change the permission of people's creating teams, please? Can you show us? It'd probably be best to take that one offline. It's a little bit beyond just an introductory course, but yes, I can show you how to get to the team settings to do that. So I will contact you afterwards if that's okay.
Perfect. So another one come in. So advanced Teams calling. Is it a must to have Teams installed on the device for this to operate? So it depends where you're coming from there. If you're using a mobile phone or your computer, you would need the Teams app to do the calling. So there's, you might have already seen from the demos, there's a little phone calls application where you can use that by default to internally call without needing to convert to a whole phone system. But if you wanted to have a dedicated device, you wouldn't need the app per se, but it does run some level of Teams. So hopefully that answers the question, but feel free to ask us if you've got further questions there.
Got another question here. Any good tips for improving video calling? We find people have issues with technical issues when traveling, also poor quality audio when talking into a laptop. So if you're doing Teams rooms and you've got a conference room set up, yes, depends basically how much money you've got to spend, I guess. What we use is a system called Logitech Rally, which has got a very high quality 4K camera and multiple microphones, which is normally an issue within a conference room. So if you want to do that for a conference room, that would be our suggestion. For a bigger one, for a smaller one, you might get away with a slightly less expensive system. For laptops and people doing it from their desks, a lot of that would come down to the power of your internet connection and the power of the hardware. So if you've got relatively recent computers, there shouldn't really be a problem with video calling. At least we haven't noticed any issues, I don't think, Ben, recently.
No, it's improved a lot, and it does relate to the next question I was just going to flow into as well. So the difference between Skype for Business that some of you may have experienced and general video calling has evolved a lot with Teams. So as if you've used Skype or previous technology a couple of years back, you might know it's pretty poor. Video can be choppy and unreliable. We've been using Teams now for what must be almost 2 years, if not more, and they've spent a lot of time optimizing the video, and the experience is pretty good. You don't need a huge amount of resource on your computer. There is obviously minimum standards that will make it run a lot better. But yeah, our experience is it runs a lot better, and Microsoft have put a huge amount of effort in here to improve it.
Yeah, and just to go back to that previous question as well, with the laptop poor quality, a lot of microphones on laptops and a lot of desktops don't even have microphones. It's best to use a headset, even a cheap USB headset with a microphone that's close to the mouth can massively cut down on background noise and make things a lot better. So I'd suggest getting headsets if you're going to be using Teams to any capacity within your organization. Got a few more questions here. Do we want to go through?
Yep, I think we're all right.
Just a couple more. Can you access documents in Azure through Teams, or is it just SharePoint? I'm not 100% sure what documents through Azure is meant. So files that are in SharePoint, I guess technically are stored on Azure, but you can access them either through the web through SharePoint or through Teams. So either is possible for that.
Yeah, just to touch on that, so you can link other external file sharing. So whether if it's sort of like Google Drive, if you chose to have your files in there, it can be referenced, but it's more advanced. It's designed to sort of link with cloud services.
All right. Oh, okay, if you're storing it in Azure. So yeah, hang on, there's another one here. I worry that a team already has a lot of places to look for info. Is it not overwhelming, distracting to have another piece of software to use? So the idea of Teams is that it consolidates a lot of bits of software into one. So you wouldn't really use your file server, be that locally or in Azure. You'd use SharePoint and Teams, and you wouldn't, well, you still use email, but basically all the other places where you store information would be consolidated to within Teams and SharePoint. At least that's the aim. We are not quite there yet. We're actively making a new SharePoint in a different project to our Teams project, but they do link quite heavily together. So yeah, it is a big change. It took us 2 years to fully adapt as we were working our way through it. But now that we have, we find it's a game changer really. So yeah.
Yeah, it's evolving. Microsoft, I think their grand vision is to make it a one-stop shop. So your files and everything would exist in one app, whether or not it doesn't matter where you access it. But I think you've explained it pretty well.
All right, we've got a good one here from John. What about archiving and searching teams? Are old messages kept forever? Can a team member see all previous history of a channel chat? Is it possible to archive old channels? Can you search across everything? A lot of questions there. I'll actually share my screen for one of them again. There's one thing that we didn't touch on was searching. You can actually search just from the top bar up here. So I'm searching in chat and I want to search for, I can just type in and find out that I've sent him a message at that time. And I've got a bunch of different filters up here, so I can actually search back between a date range. So if you want to do some more advanced searching and that kind of thing, you can. So it's kind of like email in that regard. As for the question slide. As for how long old messages are kept, I'm not sure, to be honest, Ben. It's a long time.
Yeah, we need to come back to you. I don't believe there's a retention limit defined at the moment, but it's certainly something we can have a look at. And how that interacts with archives, it's probably something we would need to come back to you directly and address.
But if you're meaning as can you search across everything as an administrator, yes, all this content is accessible through eDiscovery. So you can search Teams channel messages through eDiscovery, yes. And also set archive policies through there, but again, that's more of an advanced thing there. Can a team member see all previous history of a channel chat? Yeah, they can. If they join in, they'll be able to see the previous history. And if you're doing group discussions, when you're adding members to an existing chat, you get an option if you want to. So if it's not a team, if it's just a ad hoc one-to-many group chat, so in the chat function, not in the Teams function, it gives you an option to just share the last day or the last so many messages, or don't share anything with them, or share the entire conversation history. So hopefully that answers a few of those questions.
Perfect. Just a couple more. I see we've actually got a chat, so apologies I missed that earlier. So just mentioning around chatting to outside participants. So very good point. Thanks for flicking that through. So when you want to invite external people to your organization, you can, through the calendar or through Outlook, create a Teams meeting and invite them like normal. And they will get a meeting link where they can join and just open it in Chrome or in the Teams app that they have. So yeah, very good point, and thanks for flicking that through.
Awesome. I think that's all the questions we've got.
Cool.
So
Well, we might wrap up there.
Yep.
Cool. Well, on behalf of Alex and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today for the webinar. Hopefully it's a good starting point for you and your organisation. If you could fill out a feedback form on the webinar, and if you have more information or any questions, we would like to know how we could improve if possible. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.